of worship going on. But I went on YouTube, Google sermons on worship. I found very few old sermons. Jesus told the woman at the well, you worship what you do not know. And that's very dangerous. And we'll touch about ignorant worship. There's true worship, there's false worship. We can be singing, but we don't know the person we are singing about. We go through motion. Many of our churches, unfortunately, worship becomes like a filler. Something we do to waste the time as the preacher prepares to come. But worship is a service. If we know that worship is a service, we will not be singing 2 or 3 songs and be preaching for an hour. Then don't call it a worship service. Maybe a sermon service. God never required Israel to worship until he taught them how to worship. The whole idea of the tabernacle is to teach them how to approach, how to love God, how to serve him. He told Moses, I want to show you the tabernacle, the place of worship, according to pattern. And that's where I want you to understand pattern. There's a way of approaching God. And God was telling Moses, this is a pattern from heaven that I want to introduce on the earth to show you how to worship. In fact, we can truly not understand how to worship until we understand the tabernacle. There are many things. One day, God permits, we'll do a teaching on the tabernacle. But let me give an example. For when you look at the seraphims, God told Moses to build this ark, as you all know. And the ark is a box. And inside the box, there are 3 items. And I'm not going to go into that. We'll come to that in a few weeks if God permits. There's the Aaron's rod that budded and the 10 tablets, the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments, and the manna. It teaches about worship. Obviously, the manna teaches the fact that God is a provider. When you come, you have to know him. But anyway, I'm not going to that. But on top of the ark, which is a box, is a seraphim. And the way God asked Moses to describe it is they have their 2 wings spread over the box of the ark. When Isaiah saw those seraphims in heaven, they said they had 6 wings. Now this is as close as you can come to the presence of God. And those seraphim were guarding that presence. The seraphim, in fact, they teach us how to approach. He said, when I saw them, they had 6 wings. With 2 wings they fly, and 2 wings they cover their face. And 2 wings they cover their feet. If you don't understand that, you'll not know how to approach God. You got to understand. And I'm not teaching on that today. You got to understand. According to pattern. If you want to get to the very heart of God, you got to understand how the angels do it. And all that they say are 3 words. To say holy, 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 I've told you before, is the highest form of worship you can ascribe unto God. That's all that they say. When John saw them worship, that's all that they say. When Isaiah saw them worship, that's all that they say. In other words, I'm trying to give an example. To understand God, in fact, Jesus told the woman at the well, you can only worship God in spirit and in truth. Truth is revelation. You can't worship God without truth. Otherwise, it becomes vain worship. You are just going through the motion. You are saying it because others have said it and you are repeating it. It's like reading the Psalms. The Psalms are a reflection about somebody's deep connection with God. You can repeat it, but it can be vain. When you don't have that experience, you are just repeating words. So what I want to do today is, in the next few minutes, very, very, very basics. Very basic teaching. Very basic. I don't want to take it for granted. Let's start from the ground up, and then we'll get into deeper things. And we'll talk about the body of worship. And if God created you for worship, bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that. We'll talk about the body language. What is the role of your feet in worship, and the role of your hands, and the role of your mind, the role of your lips, for example. Lips, what do? They sing, they speak, they shout. And you got to understand those things. And then when you come to worship, you involve the body. Otherwise, we just go through the motion. Jesus talked about true worshipers. There are a lot of worshipers, but God is looking for true worshipers. So why worship? Why is it important to worship God? Number one, because God deserves our worship. It's not something you do because you are in church. It's a Sunday morning. The worship team is singing. Okay, let's get it done quickly and wait for Pastor Sam to speak. That's why I'm here. Let's get it done. The songs are too long. Get it off. But the songs, they are the service. There will be no preaching in heaven. So if you are getting bored with worship, you may not enjoy heaven. It's all worship. There will be no preaching, no altar call. Just, it's one ministry. That's why I'm jealous with Theo. It's one ministry that continues. All of us, heaven comes, our ministry ceases. We are out of job. No pastor, no evangelist, no prophet. You are not needed in heaven. But worship leaders wanted 24/7. If you can worship, God bless you. You will continue in heaven. Some of us will be out of job. The word worship is a combination of two words. And again, this is very fundamental, but it is critical that you understand this. If you miss this, you miss everything. The Latin is worth and ship. It simply means displaying the worth of God. For some of you, this may seem strange. When we talk about worship, it's about value. When you are worshiping, you are displaying how valuable God is in terms of everything else. That's what worship means. Worship. You talk about value. You talk about treasuring. Talk about pricing. You're saying, God, I price you more than everything else. It's about value. When you come into worship, in other words, if other things are not valuable to you, you are not truly worshiping God. That's why the Bible says, in vain they worship me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. You can come in and say, I surrender all. It's vain worship. When truly you haven't surrendered all. You are not valuing God above everything. If your vehicle, your home, or your relationships are more valuable than God, you are not worshiping. You worship what you value. You worship what you value. So, for example, Psalm 84, the psalmist said, better is one day in your court than 1,000 elsewhere. He's worshiping, he's valuing, he's comparing. I know I've been places, I've done things, but they cannot be compared to your present. There's value. When there's no value, when God is not high priced, is not treasured above all, we are not worshiping. So he says, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. That's value. That's worship right there. You are above everything. Those of you who are about 40 years old and beyond, you might have appreciated this song written by Lynn DiCharso. That name sounds very Italian, right? Those of you Italians in the house. Does it sound Italian? or maybe Spanish, whatever. Now listen, this is exactly. He said, Lord, you are more precious than silver. That's value. You are more costly than gold. That's value. You are more beautiful than diamonds. And nothing I desire compares with you. That's what is called worship. I value you more than anything. Resources, time, name it. You are above all. And when you come to God, you come to express that. So you can't be saying, I'm too busy for God. You don't value him. I cannot give to God. You don't value him. You cannot sacrifice to God. Romans chapter 12 talks about let your body as a living sacrifice. This is your reasonable act of worship. Value. Have you ever thought about value? Have you ever, God is prized above everything else. So somehow in the Bible, you see that God challenges us. Do you value me? Am I prized? He will tell Abraham, do you love me more than you love your son? Then sacrifice him. Show me. Prove it to me. Show me worship. In many ways, God is testing us. I love you, Lord, more than everything. He will test you to see whether true worship is not words, it's action. It tells Peter, do you love me more than all these things? Do you love me more than these things? That's value. That's worship. A rich man comes to Jesus and said, how do I worship? How do I follow you? And the Bible says he tested him. He said, sell everything you have. In other words, God wanted to know whether he valued him more than everything. That's what worship means. Worship. God, I value you. Until God become more prized than anything in your life, you haven't begun to worship. So, for example, in Revelation 4, we read some very simple. The 24 elders, again, they teach us how to worship. They bow down before him who sits on the throne, worship him who lives forever and ever. And look at the action. They lay their crowns before the throne. What does that mean? You are more valuable to us than a crown. Could be a golden crown, diamond crown. They lay it down. What are they doing? They are worshiping God. In fact, every time we give an offering, we are worshiping. Is it true? You show how much you value God. Every time you lay down your crown, you are. And why are they doing that? They say you are worthy. Our Lord and God to receive glory, honor, and power. You are more valuable to us than our crowns. For you created all things. By your will they were created and have their being. That's worship. Are you still with me? God deserves our worship. He's worth more than everything else. Why is he worth more than everything? He created all things. So you can truly say, God, you are more valuable than gold, silver, or diamond. That's true worship. The Bible says God, we'll talk about this next week. Number 2, God not only deserves worship, he desires worship. He looks for it. Do you know that? John chapter 4 verse 23 says, yet a time is coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. There's a way to do it. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. In other words, every time we all stand up to sing to God or do an action to God, He's looking for true worshipers. Every day He's here looking for true worshipers. People who are just truly here and can truly connect to Him and consider Him valuable, value Him more than everything else. I lay down my Isaac, I lay down my boat, I lay down my life. You're too quiet. Are you okay? Ask your neighbor, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? So in Mark 4, we read about a story about somebody who decided to value God above everything. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper. Watch this. A woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. You know, we are going to talk about value here. Very expensive perfume. Made of pure nard. Wow. She broke the jar, poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present who didn't understand worship were saying indignantly to one another, why this waste of perfume? You see, when you don't consider God worthy, then other things that you give to him become a waste. Why give God your diamond? That's a waste. Why give God your life? That's a waste. Because you consider yourself more valuable than God. Are you following me? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuke her harshly. And they rebuke her harshly. Then Jesus said, leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing. This is true worship. True worship is value, and God desires it. When God finds somebody who is truly worship, he's attracted to the person. He comes into church, or he walks in your home, and is looking for true worshipers to be attached himself to. Therefore, it means that it's a condition of the heart. That's what it means by spirit. It's a condition of the heart. And by truth, there's a way of doing it. Value, 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 value. And that is why, because of lack of teaching today, sometimes most of the songs become me, me, me. Touch me, me, do me, do this, me. That's not worship. There's no value. It's all about you. True worship has nothing to do with you. It's about value. Above all, even when I'm in pain, you are above all, I give it all to you. True worshipers. Don't worry, we'll go a little deeper next time. Matthew 4, when the devil comes to Christ, you all know this passage. He said, this will I give you, because the devil also desires worship. He said, if you bow to me and worship me. Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God, serve him only. That's what Jesus said, serve him only. Worship him only. Let him be the desire of your heart. Let me give you the third one. I'll give you 4, and then we'll practice it. Truly see whether some of us can lay down our crowns. And I say crowns. Lay down your crowns. You see, in the Bible, by the way, crowns are achievements. The Bible says you receive, there are about 5 crowns that you receive. There is a crown of life, for example, for those who overcome. You remember that? There are about 5 crowns in the Bible. There's a crown of glory, for example, where God in 1 Peter 5 will give it to leaders, pastors. So overall, there are about 5 crowns. And so you get to heaven, something that you have received as a way of honoring the Lord. And you get to heaven, say you have all the 5 crowns, and you lay down. Say, God, I'm nothing without you. Whatever I am today, whatever crown I have, whatever glory I have, I lay down. It's all yours. That's worship. So that when you begin to understand it, then it's not about who is standing beside you or who is shouting or who is doing what. No. It's about value. God is looking. Why worship? It's because also we are designed for worship. In other words, the way he's created us, made us, we find true fulfillment when we are in that space. Can I get a witness? I don't know about you. My best space in the presence of God, whether it's in church or at home, that's my best space. It's a place, no place compared to it. I'm sure that's your story. Because God created you for it. The Bible talks about the mountains and the trees. They clap their hands. The birds sing. God created us simply to worship him. That's the way we are designed. When we are not fulfilling that, the psalmist said in Psalm 8, "O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. From the lips of children and infants, you have ordained praise." In other words, from the day you are born, praise is supposed to flow from your mouth. When you are not praising, you are not existing. I don't even say to be a Christian. I'm simply saying to be human is to worship. It's not about being Christian. Just being a created being. You can never find fulfillment. I believe it was Psalm 84 where David brings these things together. He said, "How lovely is your dwelling place, Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints for the courts of the Lord." He's talking about what he was created to do. "My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God." And then he compares this to creation. He said, "Even the sparrows have found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may have a young." Where? A place near your altar. Even birds and animals find their fulfillment near the altar. David said, "I know it. I know it by revelation." Even birds are most fulfilled when they are singing to God. He said, "If other creation find their fulfillment near your altar, Lord Almighty, my God and my King, if they have found their place near your altar, what about me?" And that is why he said, "How great is your dwelling place? I want to get there. Because I've seen the sparrows there. I've seen other people there. I have seen how they feel near your altar." Creation, design. All right. What's my time? I have 5 more minutes. Okay. Let me give you one more because I want to spend time in. Delivered. God delivers earth for worship. The Bible says, with a strong hand, he brought Israel out of Egypt. Why? Exodus chapter 5, verse 1 says, "Afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, 'Thus says the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness.'" It's all about worship. All this thing about dividing Red Sea, turning the water into blood and frogs and lice and things, firstborn people dying, all these things, only for worship. It's just for worship. With a strong hand, God has brought you out. The least you can do, child of God, in the morning is give God your first fruit. That's the least you could do. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is not to check your Facebook or your messages. Hey, is that why God has delivered you? It's because you don't understand. He has brought you out from darkness to his marvelous light. Why? Just to worship. You don't even know how your eyes got opened. You thought it was working by alarm. Some people have alarm clock in their house next to their bed, but they couldn't wake up. When you are dying, even alarm clock cannot wake you up. You didn't wake up because of alarm clock, because God woke you up. He watched over you. So when you wake up, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is praises and worship unto God. That's how you value him. Father, you are more important to me than anything. So the next time you start to give excuse about why you cannot pray, think about value. That simply means that there are things that are more important to you than your God. That's what Jesus said. Thou shalt worship the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. What did he say? It's a value above everything. So what about, you see, when you place God second class, you might as well not place him. Because if he's not above all, there was a time in Israel, in Malachi, when they brought sacrifices. But they were bringing goats whose legs were broken, animals that were blind, the things that they didn't want, they gave it to God. And God told Malachi to tell them, you call me your father. If I'm your father, where is my honor? Where is my value? When you bring me blind animals, things that are useless to you, he said, even give that to your governor and see whether he will take it. Things that you know others will not accept, you bring to God's house. I've seen it before. Someone said, oh, Pastor, I have some couch. Do you think the church may need it? I said, oh, sure. I'm sure we can put it at the children's department. I went and saw the couch. Even me, I won't put it in my basement. I told the brother, how do you want this to be put in the house of God? You don't want it. But you want to put it in the house of God. You don't understand value. When you want to give God something, you give him your best. Is it true? If you want to buy yourself a car, don't you buy yourself a nice car. But when you give to God, you give to God your surplus. You're not worshiping. Value. That's why when Abel brought the first fruit of his best, the Bible says God had respect for his offering. God respected it. And said, the Bible said till today, Abel's offering speaks. Still speaks. Why? He gave God his best. Let me give you one more example. So Solomon became king, and he decided to give sacrifice. Thousands of bullocks until the altar was soaked with blood. Nobody's ever offered such sacrifice. Solomon said, bring them. When the temple was built. And the Bible said that night, God visited Solomon. I said, true worship attracts God. And he told Solomon, ask me anything you want. Some of you, God will not ask you that question. God will ask only true worshipers. You know why? Now, this is the paradox. True worshipers, when you ask them something, they will want nothing. Because when you give it to them, they'll give back to God. Yes. I'm telling you. That's true. So Solomon said, just give me wisdom. Yeah. If I were Solomon's father, I would give him a knock on his head. And I said, are you stupid? Is your brain working? We need food on the table. Didn't you see that Mercedes-Benz there? That you want wisdom. Wisdom. Is that how I raise you? Is that how I raise you? Stupid boy like you. What are you going to do with? And God said, I'll give you wisdom, but I'll give you more. Till today, nobody has ever been as rich as Solomon. It all began with worship. 1 Peter 2:9 says, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people. For what? For what? That you will proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. That's what you're designed for. That's why you have been delivered. That's what David meant by your praise shall continually be in my mouth. It will flow. Because that is when I'm truly human being. That is truly when I'm fulfilled. And that's truly when I'm connected to you. Amen. Start worshiping. And you know what I'm talking about. Getting to God. But it has to begin with value. Prizing God, valuing God, treasuring God above everything else. That's what we are talking about. This is a very, very fundamental, basic teaching. Let's start from there. Form